Companies that have critical services, they might be required to be available 24/7. It is your job as a network admin to make sure that those services are always available by deploying some kind of highly available solution. In a scenario where a company might have a single firewall, for example, you might recommend to deploy a second firewall to be used as the backup for the first firewall. Also, you want to make sure that in case of something happens in the first one, the failover process happens smoothly without interrupting. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy a highly available solution by using two Palo Alto firewalls. We're going to deploy it in an active passive mode, which means that we'll have one firewall acting as the primary all the time. And in case something happens in the primary firewall, all the traffic will be failed over to the second one without interrupting the client traffic. Okay, this is the topology we'll be using, and as you can see, we have a couple of devices here. So we have two clients, so two Linux PCs, we have two switches, we have one router. So this router is essentially used to simulate the access to internet, and we have two Palo Alto firewalls, and they are deployed in active passive scenario. So we're going to configure them to be in this mode in a minute. So we have a couple of interfaces here. So we have 1/1, so that's going to be the inside interface or the LAN side. We have 1/3, that's going to be the outside interface. We have the management interface for management out of band. So this cloud here means that I'm accessing these firewalls outside of this lab environment, and we need two interfaces for high availability. So one being the control links, so that's going to be 1/4 interface, and the other one is going to be for data, and that's going to be 1/5. And we're going to configure everything from scratch. And if you're new to Palo Alto firewalls, you might want to watch my previous video that I did some time ago, as this is going to help you to get started with the Palo Alto configuration. So now let's get started. Okay, so first I want to know what is the management IP address for this firewall. So right now it says that is 192.168.40.164. So that's in my case, in your case might be different. So first thing, I want to change the default password, and the default credentials are admin. So now I'm going to type the old password and type the new one. So I have to confirm that. Okay, so password changed, that's great. So I'm going to do the same for the second firewall. Okay, admin. I'm going to type again the old password. Now I'm going to type the new one. Okay, change, awesome. So now I'm going to log in using the browser. That's going to be 164. I'm just going to accept, and I'm going to do the same for the other firewall. So that's going to be for 365. Okay, done. Okay, so let's begin with the first firewall. So now I'm going to log in with the new credentials. So here I'm going to log in again because this might take some time. So I'm just going to configure both at the same time. Okay, so we want to disable this message or banner. Just do not show again, do not show again. Close. Okay. And remind me later. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to change the device host name. Let's make it easy to identify which one we are managing. As you can see, this might take some seconds to load. So okay, this is going to be PAF11. Just going to copy this and use it. Okay, and here I'm just going to disable those messages as well. So third one and the last one. Yes, I want to close this and remind me later. And so I want to change the host name as well on this one. Okay, so let me change this. That's going to be PAF22. Okay, so now back to firewall 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is to start the configuration related with HA. So a couple of things I have to change first. So here on interfaces, the management interface, I have to change this to static. So I'm just going to use the same IP address, and this is a /24, and I'm going to set my default gateway. Just confirm that. And now let's see management. So now we have to go to network, and here I want to change the interface. So interface 1, that's going to be the LAN or inside. So I'm just going to change the interface type to layer 3, and I'm going to assign to the virtual router default, and I'm going to create a new security zone. Okay, so that's going to be inside zone. Okay, so now the IPv4 address. So this one is going to be 1.168.1. I believe that's going to be 111/24. Let me double check on this. Yes, 10.1.1. One will be the firewall IP address. And everything is okay. So next should be 1/3. Okay, so let's change this. So the interface type is going to be layer 3, and the virtual router is going to be default, not security zone. We're going to create a new one, so that's going to be the outside zone. So that's one that leads to the internet. I'm just going to confirm that. Okay, now the IPv4, so this one should be 1.168.1.1/24. Let me confirm that. 1.168.1, yes, that's correct. And just confirm this. Next, we're going to select the HA interfaces. That's going to be 4 and 5. So 4, we're going to change this interface type to HA, and we want to confirm this. And we're going to do the same for 1 or 5. I'm going to change this interface type HA and click OK. Now next we want to change the, let me see, virtual router. So I'm going to create or add a static route so that the firewall forwards to the internet. So here on static route, I'm just going to add a new one. Let's call this as default route. The destination is going to be 000. The interface is going to be 13. Next hop is going to be IP address, and that's going to be 168.1.254. So that's my router here, the internet gateway. Okay, so I think that's everything. So 0013, and that's the default IP address. Okay, I want to save this. I just want to make sure. So I have virtual routers, I have interfaces. So that's going to be the outside, and that's the inside. Okay, so next let's go to device and high availability, and here we want to enable HA. So we're going to click here, and we're going to enable HA. We're going to set a number for group ID, just going to choose 1. Now the peer IP address, that's going to be firewall 2 IP address on the subnet on the control interface, and the control interface is going to be 10.1.2. so firewall 2 is going to be 2. So let's change this to be 10.1.2.2, and yep, that's it. Let's confirm this. And okay, so here I want to change also the active link to auto instead of shutdown. and we want to change the device priority to be 80. So the lowest the value, the better one. So a higher value, which means that we'll have less priority. So firewall 1 will have more priority in comparison to firewall 2. And we want to make this preemptive and enable also a heartbeat backup, so that in case this firewall fails, once it's recovered, it will be elected again as the primary one. Okay, so now let's go to HA communication. So HA controlling, so we want to enable this. Now we'll be using one or ports. So that's going to be 10.1.2.1. Net mask is going to be a /24, and we don't need the gateway because they will be in the same subnet. Okay, we're going to do the same for HA2, and we want to leave this enabled synchronization. Now port is going to be 5, and the IP is going to be 131. Net mask is going to be 255.255.255. We want to confirm that, just make sure everything's okay. 10.1.35, 10.1.2.1. Yes. Okay, so let me confirm that. So I have HA, I have interfaces, and I believe that everything is in place for HA. Now additionally, I want to create the rules or the policies that will allow client traffic to pass through the firewall. So to do that, let's go to policies, and here we want to add one policy just to allow any traffic from inside to outside. So that's going to be inside to outside policy. And let's go to source. So source is going to be inside zone, and for source address, let's create a new one. So that's going to be n10.1.1.0.24, and the subnet is going to be 10.1.1.0/24. Going to confirm this. Okay, now for destination, just going to select the outside zone, and let's enable log at session start. Just want to confirm this. Okay, so let's just confirm that. So traffic coming from inside zone on this subnet leaving to outside zone is going to be allowed. So now we want to add some net rules. So essentially we're going to create path rule so that any traffic from 10.1.1 will be translated to the outside interface of the firewall. So here we're going to add one rule, and let's name this as inside, all caps, to outside net. I'm just going to leave it as net. And original packet, so the source is going to be inside, the destination is going to be outside. I'm just going to leave any source address. As for translated packet, we want it to be dynamic IP and port. So essentially it is path, and we want to translate to interface address. So that's going to be 13, and the IP address is going to be 116.8.1.1. Okay, and we want to confirm that. Okay, so just confirm that. So from inside to outside, any destination interface and source address, we're going to use dynamic IP and port translation for the outside interface. So everything looks okay. So let's just commit and deploy those changes. And meanwhile, I'm going to close these, and let's go over dashboard. And I'm going to add one widget here. So that's going to be high availability. And while the firewall is doing its thing, let's go to firewall 2 and also start make some changes here. So for instance, Let's go to interfaces. So let me see if I changed already host name. Yeah, I did it. Let's go to interfaces. So, and let's change this from DHCP to static. So that's going to be 192.168.43.165. And the gateway is going to be 33.1. Okay. Now let's go to network. And the interfaces, let me double check on that. That's going to be 4 and 5. So I'm just going to change this one. Let's change this to HA. And do the same for 5. And I always have to click twice. So HA. Okay, so this is done for interface 4 and 5. Now, I won't have to configure everything like I did before on firewall 1 because it is going to send the configuration. So it's going to sync the configurations to this firewall. So now next, so we have enabled these. Now let's go to device and high availability. So here we want to enable HA. So let me confirm whether it's ready. So we can see that firewall 1 looks like ready. So HA2 is up. So this is the active and this is the mode enabled. Okay, that's great. So okay, let's go back to firewall 2 and we want to enable HA as well. So the group has to be the same. Now the peer IP address, so that's going to be 10.1.2.1. So that's going to be firewall 1 IP address. We'll confirm that. And the peer IP address, passive link shutdown. We want to change this to auto. And we want to leave the device priority because we want this to be less priority than firewall 1, but also want to enable preemptive and heartbeat backup. Okay, so we want to confirm this. Okay, that's okay. So now for HA communication, HA1, okay, let's change this and we want to use port 4, and that's going to be 122, and that's going to be a /24. And let's do the same for data link, and we want to change these to be port 5, and the IP is 10.132. Mask is going to be /24, and we want to confirm this. Okay, and it looks like it's everything we need. So we have HA, we have the interface. I believe that's all we need. So before we commit the changes on firewall 2, first I want to confirm that we have everything working from the client perspective. So let's open this client. And let's see if it can reach the gateway first. So that should be 168.254. Okay, and it's reaching. Okay, so now can you reach the client like to 10? Okay, it's reaching, which means that essentially traffic from this client is taking this path, okay, in order to reach this Linux 6 machine. Okay, that's awesome. So we have communication so far. So now let's enable high availability so that in case this firewall fails, all traffic will be handled by this second firewall. Let's go back to this one and let's commit those changes. I want to commit. Okay, while it's doing its thing, let me just confirm this, the log. So let me refresh this. So peer unknown, HA1 is down, heartbeat backup is down. Okay, because it's waiting for firewall 2 to be enabled. And if we look at the logs, we should see the ping traffic sent from this client, and we can see that 10.1.1.10 reaching this destination is hitting this police. Okay, now let's go back to firewall 2, and this should take a minute or so. Okay, and the configuration was deployed successfully. So let's go back to dashboard, and we should see something different now. Let's enable also a high availability widget. Okay, and we see now some green lights here. So we can see the mode is active passive, and this firewall 2 is working in passive mode. And we can see who is the active one, so that's the peer, and it's not synchronized yet, which means we have to sync the configurations between these two firewalls. And we can see this is active because everything matched, so it's okay. And if we take a look at the, for instance, policies, we should see that it doesn't have any policy yet, okay, because we didn't create any policy on this firewall, and we're going to send those policies from firewall 1. So let's go back to dashboard and back to firewall 1, and here we want to sync to peer, so meaning we're going to push the configuration from firewall 1 to firewall 2. Yes, we want to confirm that. Now this might take a couple of seconds. Okay, now the status says that it is synchronized. So if we go to firewall 2 and refresh, should see the same, that it says it is synchronized. And if we take a look at policies, we should see the policy we created on firewall 1, and you can see it right here. Okay, so let's now confirm whether the synchronization it's really happening. So what happens if firewall 1 suddenly is rebooted? So let's go back to firewall 1, and I want to bring the client, and let's see if ICMP is still running. Yes. And so I want to just disable this firewall and see what is going to happen. So let's go to device, setup, operations, and let's just reboot device. And where is the client? Yes, let's just reboot. Now see what is going to happen. So device is rebooting. So let's go to firewall 2 to see and monitor its status. So now this is the active, and we don't see any packets missed, so it's okay. So we can see that it says that firewall 1 is suspended now based on user request, and definitely this didn't seem to have any impact at all on the ping running. So which means that we have a highly available solution, and it's running as it's supposed to. Now if we wait a couple of seconds after the firewall reboot, is going to preempt its role as the active one. So we wait a couple of seconds, and let me refresh this. So right now firewall 1 should be loading or booting up, and once this process complete, is going to be the active one again. Okay, and we can confirm that actually firewall 1 is the active one and firewall 2 is the passive one. So that's how we deploy a highly available solution by using two Palo Alto Firewall. Now if you took value from this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next one.